Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI or ChatGPT, recently said that we're entering the era of the idea guy. I find myself thinking a lot about the future and how this is all going to play out over the next 2 to 5 years. If it's never been easier to create an image, a video, a website, an app, or a blog post, what does that mean for the rest of us? I believe that it's going to be more important than ever to become a creative thinker. For some of you watching, you may have been conditioned into thinking that you're not a creative thinker. Maybe you've been told you're not. That was something an employer once said to me. You must remember that your DNA is of a long lineage stretching back hundreds of thousands of years in which we were all creative in order to survive. So today I'm going to break down my top 10 ways on how you can be more creative. Number one would be to schedule creative time. Now, it's true that we can be creative sporadically throughout the day. We may get ideas that pop into our head at different times, but I really think it's important that you schedule a time within your day that you choose to be creative. Now, that could be daily, or it could be weekly, it could be monthly. It depends what you're able to do within your setup. But I would recommend around an hour or 90 minutes to get that creative time in. Personally, I like to do it first thing in the morning, but it may be better for you to do it later in the day or when the kids are in bed. During that time, you need to protect your peace. There is no social media, there are no work calls, there is no news. You really want a low information diet, and anything that is coming in during that period needs to be something that is intentionally brought in, whether that be books, podcasts, etc. Most normal people only have one phone. I have two, well, actually three, but I won't get into that. And a lot of the creative tools that you might be using may be on your phone. So if that is the case, then I would put your phone on airplane mode, take the SIM card out, whatever you need to do to make sure that you are not interrupted during that time. Personally, like I feel like on my phone, whether I put it on Do Not Disturb, there's someone will always get through somehow, or I'll get distracted. That's why I like to have a phone that doesn't have a SIM card in and doesn't have social media. So if you're able to afford a second phone, or perhaps you've got an old one lying around, then I'd recommend doing that. But whatever you do, scheduling that time and protect your peace. Number two would be blood flow. If you're looking to be more creative, then we need more blood in the brain. You'll need to think about how you're going to do that in the most convenient and optimal way for you, so you can start coming up with great ideas. The first thing that will probably come to mind when it comes to blood flow will be exercise, and exercise is a fantastic tool for this. However, I would caution against any extra long or hard, intense sessions, because that is going to use up cognitive demands. Something in the realm between 5 and 20 minutes would be about optimal for me. This is not going to be my main training session of the day. It's just a way to get a bit of that blood flow going. So you might go for a low intense jog for 20 minutes, or you could do like a bit of a body weight circuit for like 5 to 10 minutes, just get the heart going a little bit. The other side of that is by not going too hard, you're not going to deplete your glycogen levels and therefore have a big old feeding session afterwards. And that will take me into tip number 3, which is diet. When it comes to eating before a creative bout of thinking, you really want to be thinking about low glycemic foods. So you're avoiding sugary foods, refined carbohydrates of that sort, the sort of stuff that's going to spike your glucose, insulin levels, which is going to divert blood away from the brain and then into the digestive system. So you want to really avoid that and kind of keep your blood sugar nice and steady. Personally, I really like doing this sort of thing fasted, but you could also have a high protein and fat breakfast, which isn't going to mess around with your cognition too much. If you are doing your creative bout later in the evening, then what you could do is have your big meal. Just make sure it's like 2-3 hours before you're going to be doing that creative thinking, if you're wanting the best out of it. If it is hard for you to get that 2-3 hours, a little tip to kind of speed up the metabolism, digestion, and level out that glucose is take a short walk afterwards, 15-20 minutes. Again, not going too far into the realms of like 30 minutes plus, can start to fatigue you, and you're probably more likely to just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. If you're like me and you're into training hard and thinking hard, then you really need to be strategic in your approach to meal timing if you want to get the most out of those sessions. So have a think about what's going to be right for you, play around with some different ideas, note how you feel and how you performed within that cognitive bout, and then you can make adjustments and improve as you go. A few other tips when it comes to diet would be supplementation. So there are a few ones that I like at the moment, one of which is cacao, which is like the original, most pure form of chocolate. Purportedly has vascular benefits, which is going to help with that blood flow, as we mentioned earlier, and has a little bit of an energetic effect. I actually have that in my coffee in the morning. You could have it later on in the day. Just be careful because it can give you like a little bit of a buzz. So if it keeps you up at night, then maybe avoid that if you're doing it in the evening. Another one similar to that would be, of course, caffeine. Caffeine is the king when it comes to cognitive enhancement. And again, I would be avoiding that after 12 p.m. if you're wanting to sleep well. Another one would be creatine. Everyone is talking about creatine at the moment. It's very widely studied, and they reckon that anything above 5 grams will help with cognition. So I've been experimenting with around 20 grams of creatine to add in that cognitive benefit. But of course, with anything like this, make sure you consult your GP, doctor, whatever. This isn't medical advice. It's just something that I'm doing and something that you may want to consider. Do your own research. Last one when it comes to supplementation would be some form of electrolytes, or even just making sure you've got plenty of minerals within and around your food. You want to make sure you've got your sodium, potassium, magnesium, which is all going to help those electrical signals in your brain and help everything fire much more quickly. Number 4, this is a really important one, is to develop mind awareness. So what you're looking to do is to understand where your mind's at. Do you have an overspill of ideas? Do you have lots of things that actually you need to get down on paper and kind of refine? Or are you in a state of, I've got no ideas, I need to have something incoming? And the only way that you'll do that is if you become aware of your thoughts. So meditation is the single best thing for this. So if you've never done it before and it scares you, and the idea of it, you thought, oh, I can't do meditation, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to empty my mind. It's nothing to do with that. Take 1 minute every day, sit down, close your eyes, and just focus on the feeling of the breath coming in and out of your body. Just start with that. And then your mind will wander off and you'll start thinking about the washing up or whatever, or something that comes into your head. That's fine. That's normal. That's a feature, not a bug. And then notice it. Oh shit, fucking hell, I've wandered off thinking about next door's washing line, whatever it may be. And then you go, okay, let's go back to the breath. And then you can just focus on that one sensation. If you start building that up over time, I promise you, you are going to get better cognitive performance by doing that. When I do my daily meditation, I will have an idea by the end of it of how much my mind's wanting to like wander off and think about things and got all these ideas coming in, and how much it's kind of just like in a kind of fairly like low state of frequency. It's not really got too much going on. I must admit, most of the time it's like, I've got lots of things that I want to get out, but it depends like what sort of person you are. You may not have that much going on. And then once you've developed that mind awareness and you have a little bit of an idea about where you're at, then you can look at deploying the next step. Step 5 is around consumption. So if you've gone through the meditation process and maybe you've realized that you don't have that much to work with, so then you want to focus on some incoming, trying to trigger off some ideas. You're not looking to copy things, but what you're looking to do is bring in something that might inspire you or like trigger some sort of chain of thought to some original creative thought. So it might be reading, it might be listening to podcasts, reading Substack articles, whatever it is that you enjoy. Try and get something coming in. Don't read trash. Don't listen to like make sure it's something that's going to expand your mind a little bit. Ideally, like philosophy is really good for that. And if that seems like a little bit too daunting, just like find a podcast that kind of covers like something that's just a little bit out there, some sort of different ways of thinking, and it's going to really broaden your perspective and allow you to be a more creative thinker. I think sometimes, even if you're listening to something and you don't really understand it, stay with it, and like that will probably cause like enough cognitive load to kind of make your brain sort of adapt a little bit. And when you come away from that idea, it may be that something arises later on that you can work with. Number 6 is morning pages. So this is an idea taken from a book called The Artist's Way, and basically it is around getting things down on paper, no matter how bad it is. So the author, Julia Cameron, she recommends around 750 words. I think that'd be like 2 to 3 pages, something like that. But having that time to just write anything, like literally anything. And the idea is it's meant to be bad. So don't judge yourself. Like you can literally write anything. And what you're looking to do is then to tap into that source that's like underneath all of the other bullshit that comes first. Now, not only can you do this in a writing style, in terms of like literally writing it out on pages, you can do this with talking to a camera. For example, when I start up the camera on these things, the beginning on the first 5 to 10 minutes is usually pretty bad. But once I get into a flow, once I relax, once I've got rid of that residual kind of bullshit of the day, then I tend to tap into this more creative flow state. So do that, whether that be writing down or talking to camera, or it could just be speaking to a recorder. You just need to kind of get those things out of you before you can tap into the really good stuff. So morning pages for number 6. Number 7 is constraints and breaks. This is particularly useful if you are on a time restraint. Let's say you've only got 30 minutes, you've only got 60 minutes, something like that, and you want to be really structured and get the most out of your creative session. So what you can do is set up intervals, different periods of times when you're going to go through different kind of modes of creative thinking. For example, you might set a timer for 10 minutes to do like a freestyle morning pages type approach. Then you might set 5 minutes to where you're only going to refine ideas. So taking that all that stuff that you've written before, and they go, okay, how can I refine it? What's good in here? Then you might have another 5-minute section around distillation, taking what has been refined and making it as small as possible. So like, what is the goal from all that stuff in there after the refinement stage? How can we distill it down into the tiniest little sentence, paragraph, tweet? It's imagine you're taking a blog post and then turn it into like a tweet or an X or whatever the fuck they call it, something like that. It's going to just allow that idea to develop and consolidate a little bit within your mind. Don't forget within that to have breaks. So you might have 10 minutes freestyle, 5 minutes refine, 5 minutes distill, then a 5-minute break, something like that, and then come back and do the cycle again. And by the end of that period, I can almost guarantee you're going to have loads of ideas and different things that you wouldn't have had if you've not followed that type of protocol. If you're looking around practical applications, how you could do that is you could set a timer on your phone, you could put it on your watch, or the best thing would be to have like a split timer thing. I use one called Seconds that I get on Android, and basically you can just put up like a bit like a playlist of like 10 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 5 minutes, and it will like cue you up what you're going to do next, just like if you were doing a workout and you had these things set out in a certain order. But the key thing is just to be strict with that. When that timer comes up, make sure you move over to the other thing so that you're going to cover all bases. So that's number 7, constraints and breaks. Number 8 is around like the creative block side of things. So if you are in a space where you are struggling to come up with things, you've read some books, you've listened to podcasts or whatever, but you're still kind of struggling, then I would suggest that you listen to music. So something you can either go down the something that's like upbeat that gets you like moving, dancing around the house, in the car, whatever it may be, or something more like classical, have the headphones on, really immerse yourself and kind of just be present with the music, enjoy it. Or something like the binaural beats, like the kind of waveformy stuff that you can listen to before you go to bed. I like looking for stuff like healing frequencies, stuff like that. And then if you've got a good set of headphones, it does really sort of it does feel like it's like massaging your brain. Really good if you can find one, like search for like panning frequency or something like that, and basically it goes like back and forth, left and right. It does feel like it just kind of like sets some things going, like relaxes you a little bit, gets you into this more kind of like deep state. And then what you're looking for during that thing, whether you're listening to binaural beats or whether you've got your emo rock dancing around the kitchen, what you're looking for is the moment that spark comes in. And you've got to be careful, because usually if you're enjoying the music, it might come in, but you're like, fuck, I'm enjoying myself, tidying the kitchen, whatever, like listening to the music. But spotting that when it comes in and going, right, something's come in. Now we've got something to work with. Another thing would be walks, and really, like, this probably should be its own separate thing, but walks are so good for creativity. I really like taking a voice recorder with me, just my phone, the one without the SIM card in, surprise, surprise. Or you can take just like a folded up piece of paper in your back pocket and a pen. That's really good. Go out for even if it's just 10 minutes, just walk around the block. Ideally, try and get near some nature if you can do. And then if something comes in, then you're able to capture it, just like stop, write that note down. And then when you come back, then you'll have something to work with. So for writer's block, we've got music and we've got walks. Them are two favorites for point number 8. Coming in at number 9 is straight to the source. So if you have a favorite podcaster you listen to, like me, obviously, or an author or someone that you really admire and then you enjoy their insights, what you want to do is go, where did they find that information from? Because then you're going to get a much richer source of that kind of knowledge. In the example that we're in here, if you're listening to me talk about this, I couldn't tell you where any of these ideas came from because they feel like mine, but I'm sure that I've picked them up via osmosis from different things. So it could be Modern Wisdom Podcast, it could be Sam Harris, it could be the author Ryan Holiday, Tim Ferriss, Stephen Bartlett, Robert Greene. Those are some to give you a little bit of an idea of like where I probably get a lot of my inspiration from. When you're listening to other podcasts, just notice like the people that they mention. Sometimes I forget this and I'll be listening and they'll mention a book or something and I'll think, I don't need to read that. But it's like, if they are mentioning that book on the podcast, it's probably an indicator that it is really, really high level, especially if that person is operating at a very high level. So look out for those mentions. And then if you are thinking about like books, you can like look at the bibliography, like the references at the back. So like, where did they get their information from and research? One thing that's a little bit annoying around audiobooks is I listen to a lot of audiobooks. They don't have the usual bibliography that you would have in a paperback or hardback cover, which is a little bit annoying. So maybe I need to start reading more physical pages. Although I have actually been doing more Kindle. I don't know whether you get the bibliography in Kindle. Stop saying bibliography. It's such a weird word, isn't it? So that's it. Go straight to the source. Apart from me, listen to all my stuff and then also go to the source if you would like, but I will happily distill it down for you. Okay, so number 10. And now I've probably done this the wrong way around, haven't I? This is my number 1. This is my favorite in terms of being creative, is alternate state thinking. And what that means is it could be either during meditation, it can be either during a walk, and it is that kind of back and forth between mindfulness and then thinking. Honestly, this is the best way to do it in terms of being creative. If I only had 10 minutes to be more creative, I would do this. I would go for a walk. I would decide on a distance that I was going to be fully present with my surroundings. A good way to do this, if you're not used to meditation techniques or mindfulness, is pretend you're on holiday. I did this the other day in a forest. So do it in a forest, right? So imagine you're in a forest, and then there's a tree, like, a few yards down the path. I'm going to be totally present right up until that tree. So I'm going to pretend I'm on holiday. So I'm going to look around like everything is new. Like, whoa, like, that feeling like when you're walking down the street when you're on holiday. And I think that's why holidays are so relaxing, because they bring you into this presence, because you're like, just like, that everything is new. And one of the things we do when we live in the same place is we assume that we've seen everything. But how would you know if you went through that forest? How do you know you've seen that like bit of that tree before? Have you really seen that before? Or do you just think you have? So when you're going through this forest and then you're kind of feeling the ground like beneath your feet or whatever, but work out what's right for you. If you're a beginner to this, it might be like, like 5 steps. You might think 5 steps of like being present, feeling like I'm on a holiday. Then after that, do whatever you want. So think about things, let your mind wander, do whatever you want, but then notice it and capture it, like I said before, with a pen and paper or the recorder, and then do it again. A good example of this was me the other week. I knew I had to think through an idea, but I also wanted to get outside and get some fresh air. So what I did was I deployed this, and I would kind of just go back and forth between it. I'd get to the point, I'd allow myself to wander a bit. And then once I kind of like, I could feel like this kind of like I'd stop coming up with ideas, then I'd go back to like pretending on holiday in forest mode. And then I'd like set like a distance that I was going to do it. And then I would go back and forth until eventually I was just like floods of ideas. And I had my voice recorder on. I was like talking, like going through all this stuff, and it just wouldn't stop coming. Like the source was flowing, and like I was receiving all these ideas, which is awesome. So doing that is really good. You don't have to necessarily do it when you're outside. You can do it when you're meditating. We can do it when you're sat down. So you just sit there. Again, like I said before with the meditation piece, focus on your breath. Set an interval timer for every 1 minute or every 2 minutes. Or if you don't have anything to hand, just kind of do it intuitively. But ideally do it with a timer. You can get a free timer using Insight Timer. You can download that app and go through a period of focusing on the breath just for a minute. And then once that bell goes off, then allow yourself to think. And ideally, so if you're sat there and you're able to have your voice recorder on your phone so you can capture ideas as they come into your head, and just go back and forth, but make sure you're strict with it. When that timer goes off, and let's say you're thinking about something and it goes off, make sure you come back to the breath, because that will make it more powerful when you eventually open up and be more creative. So there we have it, 10 ways to be more creative. I hope you found that enjoyable. If you would like a practical way to utilize some of these methods, you can go to Indiip, indiip.com/podcast, which is my new app, which I created totally for free. You can go on there and start implementing some of these habits. So you could do them as a daily habit. You could do them once a week. Every Friday, you could do alternate state thinking, or you could do the 1 minute of meditation every day. So starting out is going to give you a huge edge on this unpredictable future that we're facing. But I really believe that if you're able to come up with ideas, really get proficient at constantly coming up with new ideas and refining stuff, then you're going to have an advantage over most other people. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit different to the ones I normally do, where I interview guests. If you enjoyed this content, please drop me a follow on whichever app you're listening to it on. If there are any particular ideas in here that you've deployed with success, please do let me know, because I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Hey guys, it's me. Just a quick one before you get going. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can check out links to my guests via the episode description below. And a reminder to claim your free VIP pass month at Indiip. Go to indiip.com/podcast. That's indiip.com/podcast. If you're looking to improve your life and build habits, I really think you're going to love this tool. All links are in the episode description. Thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.